I've started a new channel called Lunila Tales. Please subscribe and watch my best stories there. Link is in the description. The man did not miss. That was the first thing the galaxy learned about the last human alive. The second thing they learned was far more terrifying. When he decided not to be found, he vanished completely, as if the universe itself forgot he ever existed. But on the night the galaxy screamed his name, and the Galactic Patrol closed in on him from every direction, something far worse happened. He stopped shooting. And when Jax Mercer stopped shooting, it meant one of two things. Either he was dead, or someone had finally scared him. Jax crouched on the edge of a gravity tower on Zedra 9, his sniper rifle resting calmly in his hands, as if it had been built as an extension of his nervous system. Wind roared around him, stinging his face, while neon city lights bled together into a swirling storm of color far below. Hover traffic screamed through the sky. Patrol drones zigzagged in deadly patterns. Hologram billboards flickered. Across the skyline, one giant screen showed his face with the words "Galaxy-wide manhunt in progress." But Jax was not worried. Not yet. He sucked a breath through his teeth and peeked through his rifle scope. 1,000 meters across the void. One moving target. 3 armored escorts. Wind shear unpredictable. Thermal interference from reactor exhaust. Impossible shot. But impossible shots made Jax laugh. And he needed to laugh right now. His heartbeat thudded like a war drum in his ears, but he stayed perfectly still. His heartbeat did not matter. Fear did not matter. Breathing did not matter. There was only the shot. Movement flickered behind him. A holographic AI advisory drone materialized beside him and flashed red in warning. Illegal firearms detected. Galactic Enforcement Patrol en route. Surrender immediately. You cannot escape. He smirked. People have been saying that to me for years. He squeezed the trigger. And missed. The recoil jolted his shoulder, but he barely felt it. The sight picture cleared, and he realized with horror that his shot had not failed because of speed or wind or interference. It had missed because the target he was aiming for, Senator Draxel of the Orion Accord, had not been the real threat. Jax had just shot at the wrong enemy. His gut clenched. He stood and slung the rifle across his back, jumping over the ledge. Gravity collapsed around him. Air whipped past as he plummeted down the tower, falling between skyscrapers so tall they cut into the clouds. Alarms blared behind him. The AI drone screamed warnings he could no longer hear. He yanked a magnetic grapple from his belt and fired. The cable snapped to a rail. He swung at terrifying speed, nearly smashing into a hover cab before he kicked off a billboard and cut loose, dropping boots first into a maintenance balcony. He hit the metal hard, rolled, sprang up, and ran. Hundreds of patrol drones swarmed the skyline like a cloud of angry hornets. Jax sprinted across the narrow balcony and dove through a maintenance hatch, sliding inside a generator tunnel that crackled with blue current. He skidded to a halt and leaned back against a wall, breathing hard. What he saw through his scope replayed in his mind. Behind Senator Draxel had been a second vessel, one with no markings, no ID. A Ghost Fleet ship. Government Black Ops. If a Ghost Fleet ship was guarding the Senator, then this was never an ordinary convoy. This was a setup. Someone wanted him to take that shot. Someone wanted the galaxy to finally catch him. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small cylindrical data capsule. He hated this thing already. It had cost him 2 safe houses, 3 forged identities, and every last favor he had left. And now he might die because of it. This better be worth it. Magnetic footsteps clanked from behind. He spun and raised his weapon. Too slow. A blaster pressed to his forehead. "Gotcha, human," a voice growled. The bounty hunter was massive and smelled faintly of swamp rot. A Zarnian merc. Ugly and overconfident. The worst combination. Jax slowly raised his hands. "Look," he said calmly. "Can we skip the villain monologue and go straight to the part where I escape?" The bounty hunter squinted. "What?" Jax moved. 1 second the merc held a blaster to his head. The next he was on the ground with a dislocated wrist and a broken nose. Jax continued running without looking back. He slid down a ladder and burst through another hatch into a street-level bazaar. Crowds of aliens turned and fled the moment they recognized him. Someone shouted, "That is him, that is Jax Mercer, the human marksman." Jax cursed under his breath. He shoved through the panicked street. A drone swarm appeared overhead. He dove behind a scrap vendor stall and grabbed a sheet of reflective metal. He angled it upward. The drones scanned, saw only their own reflections, hesitated, and shot each other in confusion. Low-tech trick. Always works, Jax muttered. But as he sprinted toward the nearest dockyard, a cold realization sank into his chest. They knew where he was. Not just drones. Not just bounty hunters. The Galactic Patrol. The entire network. They had triangulated him from orbit. That should not have been possible. His stealth mods were military-grade. Untraceable. Unless someone turned them off remotely. He skidded to a halt. His hands went to the inside of his coat. His fingertips brushed a small silver chip attached to his tracking dampener. It was new. Not his tech. He froze. Someone planted a tracker on me. Before panic could set in, a voice shouted, "Jax, get in here now." A cargo bay hatch opened and a small cloaked starship flashed lights urgently. The pilot was a young alien woman with mechanical goggles and hair tied with copper wires. Her face was smudged with engine grease, and she looked very, very annoyed. "Do you want to die today, or do you want to argue in space? Get in now." Jax did not recognize her. Normally, that meant he did not trust her. On the other hand, Galactic Patrol gunships screamed overhead and locked missiles on his position. He ran. He sprinted across the dock and dove inside just as the hatch slammed shut behind him. The ship blasted away from the station, disappearing under a cloak field that shimmered like heat haze. Outside, missiles collided where he had been standing seconds before. He got to his feet and stared at the pilot. "Who the hell are you?" She shoved him into a seat and strapped him in as the ship jolted into hypershift. "Name is Galactic. I just saved your life." "You are welcome." "I did not ask for help," Jax snapped. "You did not have to. The entire galaxy is hunting you. Made it kind of obvious." Jax clenched his jaw. The engines roared. Hyperspace ripped across the windows in violent streaks of light. He leaned forward. "Why would you help me?" The hum of hyperspace filled the cramped starship like a low mechanical heartbeat. Jax Mercer sat across from Galactic at a small metal table, the quantum silence rifle resting between them as if it carried a presence of its own. Its surface looked strangely empty, like it refused to reflect light. Every other weapon in the galaxy hummed with power or flickered with energy, but this one felt unervingly hollow, like staring into a grave. Zila had not spoken for 2 full minutes. Her amber eyes studied the rifle with the intense focus of a predator analyzing prey. She was not afraid. More curious. Reckless curiosity was always dangerous. Jax wondered if she knew that. "So," she finally said, tapping a finger on the table. "You stole a myth." "I did not steal it," Jax muttered. "I rescued it." "That is exactly the kind of thing a thief would say." Jax exhaled slowly. "This weapon was built by someone who should not have built it. Someone dangerous. Someone who needed to be stopped. And you thought the best way to stop it was to run around the galaxy with it in your backpack. Brilliant strategy. I can see why you are a wanted criminal." Jax rubbed his temples. "Look, if you are going to keep making jokes, at least pretend they are clever." Zila grinned. "Somebody has to lighten the mood. You are all doom and mystery. It is exhausting. Now tell me what this thing actually does, because I am guessing it does not just shoot bullets." "It does not shoot anything you would recognize," Jax said. "No plasma, no ion rounds, no lasers. It fires a compressed quantum erasure field. Instead of destroying a target, it removes it from measurable existence." Zila stared. "So it does not kill people. It deletes them from reality." "Yes." Her eyebrow twitched. I take back what I said. This is not a myth. This is a nightmare. Jax leaned forward. And it is just a prototype. The Senate wants to mass-produce them. Undetectable weapons. No blast signatures. No evidence. No war crimes, she said softly. Because technically no one dies. Exactly. They just vanish. No consequences. No justice. No proof. Zila put her hands behind her head and stared at the ceiling. So, the Senate is building reality erasers. And you stole the only working one. Why? Because someone has to stop them before it is too late. Someone like you. Someone stupid enough to try, Jax muttered. Zila looked at him for a long moment. You are not being hunted. You are being cornered. Someone wants this rifle. Someone powerful. Jax looked at the rifle and felt a heaviness settle in his chest. I know. Then he added quietly, I think I know who. Zila leaned forward. Who? He hesitated. The Ghost Fleet. Zila froze. The room seemed to get colder. You are out of your mind, she said. The Ghost Fleet does not exist. It is a myth told by smugglers to scare rookies. It is real. Even if it was real, they do not interfere with Senate business. Not publicly. Her voice dropped to a whisper. Then why would they want this weapon? Because they designed it. Not the Senate. The Ghost Fleet is building something far worse. The Senate is just their puppet. Zila stared at him like he had slapped her. You have proof. That is why I went to Zedra 9. She waited. But the proof is gone now, he admitted. Someone erased it. Same way they erased Earth. Zila frowned. I thought Earth was destroyed. No, Jax said quietly. It was erased. He did not elaborate. Zila watched him with new eyes, measuring him again. Something unspoken passed between them. The ship rumbled softly around them. Finally she spoke. So what now? We find proof, he said. Someone must still have records. Someone they could not erase. Zila rolled her eyes. Let me guess. Black market data brokers. Jax smirked. You know any? She groaned. I know the worst one. A shimmer of light rippled through the cabin. The ship dropped out of hyperspace. A swirling band of green nebula filled the view screen. Behind it, like a massive floating corpse in space, drifted a giant ring-shaped station held together with scrap metal and desperation. Welcome to Blight Station, Zila said. Home of criminals, smugglers, stolen goods, and at least 6 kinds of airborne diseases. Try not to breathe too deeply. I will do my best, Jax said, standing. He slung the rifle across his back, concealed under a tattered cloak. Zila strapped a plasma pistol to her hip and powered down the cloak field around the ship. Rusted docking clamps latched onto them with a metallic crunch. The station smelled like engine fumes, fried street food, and opportunistic betrayal. Neon signs flickered above narrow market corridors. Aliens from 100 star systems haggled, lied, and threatened each other in every language Jax could name. His hand stayed close to his holster. Zila walked ahead and glanced back. Keep your head down. A human walking around is like a stolen credit chip with legs. Everybody is going to want a piece. He tugged his hood lower. Nobody is stupid enough to try. She barked a laugh. You have not met Mock Rod yet. They weaved through the chaos until they reached a metal door plastered with stickers, bullet dents, and scorch marks. Zila punched a code into a panel. The door slid open, revealing a dimly lit casino-style room full of smugglers and gamblers, all looking equally guilty of something. At the far end of the room, a spherical blob of translucent orange slime rested behind a bar, wearing a tiny black vest and a very smug expression. Mock Rod, Jax muttered. You have got to be kidding. The blob's surface wobbled with a hint of delight. Zila Cade Mock burbled. My favorite disaster. And you brought me a little human friend. Oh joy. Zila leaned against the bar. We need a data pull. Classified files. Old stuff. Probably erased from official records. Mock oozed closer. Erased records? Why, Zila? Are we committing conspiracy today, or treason? I love treason. Information first, Jax said. Then we talk payment. Mock rotated an eye stalk toward him. The human speaks. Charming. Tell me, do you come with life insurance or are you more of a disposable problem? Jax did not blink. Can you get the data or not? Mock paused dramatically, then slapped a pseudopod on the bar. Absolutely. But first you must survive my premium consultation fee. Jax waited. Mock grinned. One game. You versus me. Winner gets the upper hand in negotiations. Zila groaned. Do not do it. He cheats at everything. I do not cheat, Mock protested. I simply bend probability to my advantage. That is different. What game? Jax asked. Mock produced a deck of holographic cards that spun in midair. Cosmic Riffle. 1 round. 5 cards. Read your opponent. Predict the flop. Try not to lose your dignity. Jax sat down. Deal. Zila slapped her forehead. Oh, for stars' sake. Cards flickered in and out of existence, numbers changing, suits mutating. This was not a game of luck. It was mental warfare disguised as gambling. Jax watched Mock's micro-expressions, or whatever counted as micro-expressions on a blob. He studied rhythm, pattern, breathing. Except Mock did not breathe. You are stalling, Mock said. Jax played a card. Mock played 2 faster. Jax mirrored his move. Mock flinched. Zila leaned forward. No way. Is he actually winning? Final card, Mock declared. He played it. So did Jax. There was a heartbeat of silence. Then Mock shrieked. Impossible, that is impossible, how did you know my anchor card? Jax collected the pot without smiling. The image flickering on the screen was more unnerving than any bounty hunter, warship, or death sentence Jax had ever faced. He stood frozen, muscles locked, heart pounding in slow, painful beats as he stared at the grainy face staring back at him. Same jawline. Same scar above the eyebrow. Same eyes. Except they were colder. Empty. Like a reflection drained of a soul. Zila stepped closer, her voice barely above a whisper. Echo 7. What does that mean? Mock swallowed, which was unusual given that he had no throat. Project Echo was a classified bioreplication study, rumored to be connected to the Senate. But that is not the worst part. Jax forced his voice steady. Keep going. Mock scrolled through pages of classified documents, all stamped erased. The files were damaged, fragmented, corrupted intentionally by someone who did not want them seen. But enough remained to build a nightmare. Lines of text jumped across the screen. Human DNA acquisition successful. Subject template stable. Behavioral override protocols effective. Deployment to Orion sector scheduled. Zila frowned. Behavioral override. That sounds like mind control. Mock trembled, a nervous ripple running across his gelatinous surface. That sounds like weapons disguised as people. Jax felt a surge of nausea. They made copies of me. Or one true copy, Mock said quietly. Maybe you are the copy. Jax glared at him so intensely that Mock nearly recoiled into his blob body. Mock raised a defensive tendril. Just trying to be scientifically horrifying. Zila put a hand on the terminal. If these Echo subjects are still active, we need to find them before the Senate uses them to erase entire star systems. Jax, we have to stop this. Jax said nothing. His thoughts were turning in violent circles. If there were Echo subjects, where were they now and why had he never known? He had always believed he was the last human alive. He had lived with the weight of extinction. But if this project existed, maybe humanity had not died at all. Maybe it had been harvested. Suddenly the terminal lights went red. Warning icons flashed. Unauthorized data access detected. Galactic Enforcement Patrol inbound. Estimated arrival 45 seconds. Mock flailed. They traced the hack. That is impossible. I used a ghost network. Zila yanked the data disk out of the terminal and shoved it into her jacket. Move now, she barked. They ran back through the hallway toward the casino. The heavy door behind them slammed shut as Mock hit the emergency seal. You got what you came for now. Get off my station, Mock said, shaking. And if anyone asks, we never met. Jax paused. You are coming with us. Mock froze. Absolutely not. Zila grabbed him by the vest and shoved him forward. Too late now. If the patrol traces that data pull to you, they will melt you into a lampshade. Congratulations. You work for us now. Mock wobbled helplessly as they dragged him through the crowded bar. The world outside had erupted into chaos. Sirens blared. Metal shutters crashed down over shopfronts. Station security units stormed through hallways shouting orders. Zila yelled this way and led them through a side exit just before a squadron of armored patrol troopers burst into the casino. Blasters fired. Patrons screamed. Mock sobbed something about unfair labor conditions. Jax scanned the alley ahead. Too exposed. We need a distraction. I have one, Zila said. But you are not going to like it. She slapped a magnetic charge onto a pile of fuel canisters and kept running. Jax heard the beep of activation and immediately picked up speed. 5 seconds later, a concussive blast rocked the entire station, nearly shredding the corridor behind them. A fireball burst upward, scattering security teams and setting off automated alarms. Zila grinned while she sprinted. Boom. Jax shook his head. You are insane. Compliments will not get you anywhere. They reached the main docking bay. Patrol troopers were already searching ship. A blockade had sealed off the exit. Drones buzzed overhead like metal hornet. Escape seemed impossible. Mock wailed. We are doomed. Please remember me as a morally flexible hero. Jax scanned the dock. No open route. No stealth path. He hated doing reckless things. He did one anyway. He fired his grappling hook at a hanging crane arm and swung them upward. Mock screamed the whole way. They landed behind a stack of cargo containers stacked 20 stories high. He heard Zila laugh breathlessly. Admit it. You are having fun. This is not fun. This is probable death. Better than boring death, she said. They climbed the containers, staying hidden in the shadows while patrol teams swept the floor below. Zila pointed to their ship 3 rows over. Still docked. Guarded by 6 troopers and a heavy turret. How do we get past that? Jax asked. Zila grinned again. Easy. We do not. She pried open a maintenance hatch on the side of the cargo tower and kicked loose a vertical chute. Inside were hover crates stacked in a shaft that dropped straight down the dock. An insane idea sparked in her eyes. Do not say it, Jax warned. We ride them down. Absolutely not. It will be fast. It will be suicidal. She stepped into the chute. Come on, Mock. No, Mock begged. I am too adorable to die. Jax groaned. He looked over the edge, then back at the patrol team searching for them. There was no other choice. He stepped onto a floating crate as it hummed to life and started sliding down the chute like an elevator with a death wish. Wind roared. Gravity vanished. Metal screamed. They shot downward at terrifying speed, hurtling into open air above the dock. Troopers and drones turned just in time to see 3 figures surfing crates mid-flight. Open fire, someone shouted. Jax vaulted off his crate and smashed into a trooper, knocking him flat. Zila crashed into 2 more and rolled. Mock ricocheted off a stack of barrels and bounced into a wall. I hate everything, he moaned. Blaster fire erupted. Jax ducked behind a fuel tank and fired back. Zila sprinted to the ship and unlocked the ramp. Jax fought through 3 troopers, his movements fast and precise. A drone descended above him. He shot it through the sensor housing and slid behind a crate before another volley hit. Get in the ship, Zila yelled. Jax ducked laser fire and sprinted up the ramp. Blasts hit the hull behind him. Mock flopped inside, rolling in panic. My beautiful goo is evaporating. I was not made for combat. Zila slammed the controls and hit launch. The ship engines roared to life. The docking clamps released. The vessel lifted into the air. Then the heavy turret locked onto them. Brace, Zila shouted. The shot hit them dead center. The hull screamed. Alarms blared. They spun wildly. Stabilizers offline, Jax yelled. I am working on it, Zila growled. The ship wobbled, smoking, then shot forward through the blockade as Zila rerouted emergency power. Once clear of the dock, she engaged the cloak. The stars vanished. Silence. Jax fell back into his seat, heart pounding. That could have gone better. Could have gone worse, Zila said. Mach vomited a small blob of himself into a bucket. Jax reached into his pocket and pulled out the data disk. He stared at it. Echo 7. There was someone out there with his face. Maybe his DNA. Maybe his memories. And if the files were correct, maybe not just one. Zila pulled the ship out of the danger zone. Her voice softened. You okay? No. Helios 13 hung in space like a wound. From orbit the planet looked dead in every way the universe understands death. Gray soil, no atmosphere shimmer, a crusted ring of abandoned satellites, and scars where something had clearly torn through the crust. Zila piloted the ship low, her face lit by instrument panels and a pale, exhausted grin. The cloak meant nothing down here. The planet had no patrols, only the ghosts of experiments past and the kind of silence that eats electronic. Jax watched the surface pass under the viewport and felt his old life, the part that thought of himself as unique as the last human, peel away like old tape. If Project Echo had a home, it smelled like this place. Sterilized, bitter, and wrong. They landed in a hidden basin, a fissure cut into volcanic glass. The airlock hissed open not with ceremony but like a tired animal giving up a breath. Their boots crunched on dust that tasted of metal. Zila led the way with a headlamp and a grin that did not quite reach her eyes. Mach clung to her shoulder like a security blanket that could absorb bullet. Jax carried the quantum silence rifle because leaving it behind felt more dangerous than bringing it along. The rifle's cold bulk lodged against his spine like a question mark. The entry tunnel was a throat of old machinery and warning placards faded to meaninglessness. Somewhere down the line, a ventilation fan still spun, throwing a stale wind that smelled faintly of antiseptic and burnt circuitry. The complex opened into a cavernous hall lined with doors, each one numbered and scrubbed of identification. Some doors hung open, their interiors in chaos. Overturned tables, shattered glass, tubes empty and cracked like dead veins. None of it looked like an accident. It looked like someone had left in a hurry, and in that hurry had erased the parts of the world that would make the leaving meaningful. They moved through labs that had once been temples for a perverse faith. Walls bore diagrams of DNA sequences annotated with bureaucratic handwritings, models of neurotransmitter pathways with scribbles that read like academic prayer. Rows of cryotubes stood like stained glass windows in a church gone wrong, their inner lights dead, their lids dust-coated. Jax ran a gloved hand over one of the consoles. Lines of code bled under his touch like dried ink. Someone had tried to scrub everything but had left fingerprints of intent. There were security nodes here still functioning in a shadow mode, ancient but not dead, and Zila bypassed them with rough, affectionate gestures as if apologizing for the theft she was about to commit. In the center of the complex they found a room that felt wrong in the way a mirror feels wrong when it refuses to mirror you. It was an observation chamber with a single, still tube. Inside floated a figure, head bowed, cords like silver roots feeding into ports along the neck. The face reflected in the glass made Jax's stomach fold. It was a face he had known by instinct for as long as he had a face to know. Same jaw, same scar, same stubborn set to the mouth. Only this face carried a veneer of sleep and chemical peace. A plaque below the tube read Subject Echo 7. Mach made a sound that was too much like a sob for his anatomy. Zila stepped forward and tapped the glass. Her fingers left bright prints against the dust. He is alive, she whispered, more to herself than to anyone else. Jax felt nights of exhaustion in his knees and anger in his chest like a second heartbeat. Alive was a complicated word. Alive could mean functional, or awake, or compromised. Alive could mean weaponized. He wanted to smash the glass with his bare hands and wake whatever mind lived inside that tube. He also wanted to back away and pretend the whole thing was a corruption of memory. The rifle weighed into his resolve. He pressed his palm to the glass and found that the body inside stirred at his touch as if some acoustic memory threaded between skin and bone. The lids of the tube hissed, and a door he had not seen cracked open. Sensors had decided that visitors were authorized. The figure stepped out with the slow assertiveness of someone who had rehearsed 1,000 exits and never practiced spontaneity. Echo 7 blinked, and the blink was an uncanny match to a habit Jax had developed as a child under a different sun. When the clone came fully into the light, his eyes met Jax's and something like recognition passed through him, as if a bell had been struck centuries ago and the echo was only now reaching its ears. "You," he said, his voice a strange echo of Jax's own timbre and cadences but stripped of the hard edges carved by years of survival. The way he said the single word held 1,000 small questions. Why, who, and how much of me are you? Jax had spent a life running from symbology and headline fame. He had never run from himself, because he believed there was nothing to run from. Now he discovered the opposite. There was a self arranged and replicated and weaponized, and it had been waiting in a cold room. Echo 7 smiled, an expression that was both terrifying and heartbreakingly human. "They call me Echo," he said. "They taught me my name. I remember drills. I remember targets. I remember the smell of ozone and the taste of training rations. I do not remember a home. Do you?" Jax swallowed. Memory felt like a room full of broken mirrors. "I remember a desert," he said. "I remember a woman who sang to the stars. I remember being told the last of our kind had vanished." Echo 7 looked at him like one twin might look at another who returned from war with someone else's uniform on. They spoke then in a quiet that countered the machine hum. Zila asked questions with impatient kindness. Mach offered up theories in high-pitched bursts of scientific dread. Echo 7 answered with the slow stacking of phrases learned by rote until the of the truth forced its way through the training regimen. He had been part of Project Echo, created not to replace humans but to act as plausible deniability. He had been taught to aim, to wait, to become a face that could be pointed at when silence needed a story. He knew a Senate file format and the taste of sedatives used to break identity. He knew, with the terrifying clarity of someone raised on patterns, that he had been selected for deployment in the Orion sector. Jax listened until the edges of his patience and exhaustion blurred, and then he asked the question that had haunted him since Mach's terminal had lit up. "How many are there?" Echo 7's eyes flickered, and for the first time a sliver of fear passed over his features. "More than you think," he said. "Hundreds, maybe thousands. They kept the archives in shards and moved the models whenever a trace grew too visible. They pried away memories and slipped new ones in like counterfeit coins. They taught us to be mirrors first and soldiers second. Then they let us walk. The words did what words always threatened to do, and the escape from Helios 13 was a blur of alarms and collapsing metal corridors. Whatever system silently guarded the ruins did not appreciate resurrection. The moment Echo 7 stepped out of his containment chamber, the facility had awakened like a wounded animal and tried to seal every lab behind tungsten blast doors. Zila overrode the locks with one hand while dragging Mach with the other, who screamed about being allergic to death. Jax stayed in the rear, covering their exit with the quantum silence rifle slung across his back, though he prayed he would not need to use it. Using it felt like feeding a monster, and he had spent his life hunting monsters, not creating them. By the time they reached the ship, Helios 13 was beginning to fracture at the seams. Shockwaves rolled through the crust. Plumes of dust burst upward like fists breaking through a coffin. Zila slammed the hatch shut and launched them toward the upper atmosphere, pushing the burnt engines harder than they were ever meant to handle. Mach clung to the ceiling in a panic. "Look, I know I am mostly gelatin, but this is still too much shaking for something that claims to be spaceworthy." Zila grinned without humor. "We are lucky anything still flies after your idea of computer hacking nearly fried our power core." Mach stretched indignantly. "You are welcome. Without me you would never have found your living action figure back there." Echo 7 sat silently across from Jack. He moved like someone who was still getting used to the idea that motion was a choice he now had. When they finally broke free of Helios 13's gravity, Jax turned to face him. "You said there were more Echo units. Where?" Echo 7 blinked, as if the question were a code he needed to decrypt. "Project Echo Archive Relocation Protocol Theta. When a facility is compromised, subjects are transferred to secure deep space holding. Current location Orion Senate Capitol Station. Status flag. Awaiting deployment." Zila froze. "They are keeping them on the Senate Capitol Station. That is insane." Jax shook his head. "No. That is brilliant. Hide them in plain sight. Nobody would dare look for illegal human weapons in the most secure place in the galaxy." Echo 7 tilted his head slightly. "Correction. They are not illegal. They were approved by Emergency Military Order 49. Legal under wartime provisions." Zila scowled. "But there is no war." Echo 7 looked at her with the softness of a child explaining a terrible truth. "There will be." Silence pressed down on the cabin. Then Mock spoke. "So to summarize, you people were replicated, turned into a sleeper army, and hidden under guard at the center of galactic politics. And you think the Senate plans to spark a war so they can use them?" Jax nodded. "Not just use them. Blame them. They need a villain. Something that justifies total military rule. They already erased Earth. They will erase the truth next." Zila drummed her fingers on the console. "We need evidence. Not rumors. Not conspiracy strings. Something undeniable." Mock groaned. "That would mean infiltrating the Senate. The most fortified sky fortress in the galaxy. Built to survive black hole collapse scenarios." Zila grinned. "Oh good. I was worried this would be too easy." For the first time since meeting him, Echo 7 smiled as if he understood humor as more than vocabulary. They spent the next 12 hours hidden in a debris field to avoid detection while Mock decrypted locked government files retrieved from Helios. The evidence was undeniable now. Project Echo had been directed by an unlisted department controlled by a council of senators who held no public office. They called themselves the Directorate. Their stated objective was stability through control. But their hidden objective looked much darker. Echo 7 said it without emotion. "Remove independent planetary government. Remove public elections. Remove free system status. Establish one unified galactic rule." Zila rolled her eyes. "So basically take over everything. Typical politicians." Mock stared at a screen. "Not just take over. Rewrite everything. Look at this. Deployment schedule has a target list. Entire planet. The projection lit up with names. Kepler Gate. Orion Prime. Vega 6. 22 worlds in total." Jax felt a cold rage unfurl in his chest. Billions of lives. People who had no idea their fate was being decided in hidden corridors. Zila looked at him. "If we are going to stop them, we need allies." "No," Jax said too quickly. "No one else gets dragged into this." Zila glared at him. "This is bigger than you now. Bigger than your revenge mission or whatever guilt trip you keep pretending is a cause. Whole systems are going to burn if we do nothing. You cannot do this alone." He opened his mouth to argue, but she cut him off. "I am not asking you to trust people. I am asking you to give the galaxy a chance. Because unlike you, I actually think it might be worth saving." Jax stared at her. Zila was raw, loud, stubborn, infuriating. But she was also right. He was used to running. Used to survival. But maybe survival was no longer the goal. Maybe ending this was. Echo 7 stepped forward. "I know someone." Jax turned. "Who?" Echo 7 spoke carefully, as if admitting something forbidden. "Commander Rhea Torin. Galactic Enforcement Patrol. High Command." Mock shrieked. "Are you insane? She hunts us." Echo 7 shook his head. "She hunts the Directorate too." Zila raised a brow. "The patrol has a resistance inside it." Echo 7 nodded. "Classified unit. Internal clearance black. No official record. Their directive is to identify unlawful Senate operations and expose them. They call themselves Silent Dawn. Jax frowned. Why would you know that? Echo 7 hesitated. Because I was programmed to infiltrate them. Silence stretched. Then Jax said, where do we find her? Echo 7 answered. She will find us. Minutes later, the proximity alarm screamed. A shadow passed over the ship. Lights flickered. A massive enforcement cruiser decloaked above them, black as the void, silent as execution. Boarding clamps locked onto the hull. Zila cursed. Jax grabbed the rifle. Echo 7 stood still, strangely calm. When the airlock opened, Commander Rhea Torin walked in surrounded by armored troopers. Her uniform was immaculate. Her stare could have frozen stars. She looked at Jax like someone studying a dangerous legend. Jax Mercer, she said. Last human. Or not. Jax aimed. She did not flinch. Her guards remained still. She glanced at Echo 7. So you woke him up. Interesting choice. Zila stepped forward. If you are here to arrest us, save the speech. We already know about Project Echo and the Directorate. Rhea studied them. Arrest you? I am here to recruit you. Mock fainted off his crate. Jax narrowed his eyes. Why would we trust Galactic enforcement? Rhea smirked. You should not. But I do not work for them. Not anymore. Silent Dawn exists to burn down the Directorate. And you just delivered the spark I needed. Jax lowered his rifle slightly. What do you want from us? Evidence, Rhea said. Enough to expose the Directorate to the entire galaxy before they deploy the Echo Army. Zila crossed her arms. And if they retaliate? Rhea shrugged. Then we shoot back. Jax hesitated. Trust was not one of his strengths. But the storm was already in motion, and some wars refused solitude. He extended his hand. Orion Senate Tower was a monument to control. It stretched from the surface of Orion Prime to the edge of orbit like a spear piercing heaven and hell at once. Shield rings wrapped around it. Armies guarded it. Every floor held war rooms, propaganda halls, and chambers where laws were written and truths were buried. And now, somewhere inside its fortified heart, Project Echo waited to be unleashed. The Directorate was hours away from igniting the greatest manufactured war in galactic history. Every transmission line in the galaxy would soon carry a lie, that humans had returned as a biological weapon and must be exterminated. Billions would take up arms against a fabricated enemy. The galaxy would fall under a single rule in the name of fear. Not today, Jax Mercer whispered. The infiltration team rode inside a cargo carrier disguised as a diplomatic supply module. Rhea Torin stood beside Jax in full GP armor, visor gleaming. She was calm, unshakable, carrying purpose like a weapon. Zila checked her equipment and muttered threats at anyone who might slow her down. Mock was trembling inside a portable stealth pod, but still hacking through access gates faster than any machine could. Echo 7 sat at the rear of the module, quiet, steady, watching everything. He said nothing, but Jax knew he was absorbing the moment like someone awakening into purpose for the first time. We reach level 47 first, Rhea said. Mock gets us past the biometric gate. Then Jax and Echo get to sublevel Core 6 to access the Directorate control servers. Zila handles the defense turret. I will secure the broadcast channel. Once we have the files, we push them across the galactic net. No filters. No blocks. The truth goes everywhere. And then what? Jax asked. Rhea glanced at him. We survive. That part is optional. The carrier docked against the tower with a magnetic snap. Warning lights flushed red across the cargo bay. Troops marched outside. Voices barked checkpoints. Security drones swept every meter of space. The hatch hissed open. Move, Rhea commanded. They stepped into enemy territory. The first few levels were a gauntlet of scanners and encryption field. Mock cracked each one with nervous brilliance, muttering calculations that made no sense to anyone but him. Zila dropped surveillance grids and replaced security footage with harmless supply route logs. The team moved upward through maintenance shafts and forgotten passageways that Rhea knew from long study. She had planned this mission for years, waiting for a chance. Jax could see it in her eyes. Revenge burned there, yes, but so did hope. Dangerous combination. When they reached level 47, everything changed. 2 squads of Directorate Blackwatch soldiers were waiting, already armed. Ambush, Jax shouted. Blaster fire erupted. Rhea dove behind a column and returned fire with surgical precision. Zila rolled into cover, cursing. Echo 7 moved like liquid death. His training so precise it bordered on unnatural. Mach screamed and deployed a hardlight shield that jittered but held. Jax did not want to use the quantum silence rifle, not here in close quarters, not when it might erase half a floor. So he fought the old way. Steel and sweat and grit. He seized a fallen rifle and fired through the chaos, moving forward. He had always moved forward. He didn't know any other way. They cleared the ambush with brutal force. But they all knew it now. Someone had tipped off the Directorate. They were expected. Rhea cursed. We keep moving. They will lock down the tower soon. Mach opened the next gate. I am trying, Mach snap. But you are asking me to slice into a black-tier secure processor with code that was probably built by a murderous squid with a god complex. Then hurry, Rhea said. They forced their way through, one level at a time. Sirens blared. Elite security swarmed. The team split as planned. Rhea and Mach moved to the comm tower to seize the broadcast feed. Zila, covered in soot and grease from rewiring power conduits, sprinted toward the turret defense network, and Jax and Echo descended deep into the forbidden floors of the tower where the Directorate had hidden its crimes. The lower halls were not made of sleek steel like the upper levels. They were dark concrete and old blood. This was not an office tower anymore. It was a prison. Walls were lined with sealed chambers. Jax looked through a small window in one of the doors and froze. Inside stood a figure. Human. Eyes open. Unmoving. Strapped into a neural chair, blank mind fed by machines. Thousands more down the hall. Echo 7 stepped beside him. He did not look surprised. They lock memories here. Copy minds. Reshape them. We were not made to be soldiers. We were made to be silenced. Jax touched the cold window. We free them. Echo nodded once. Alarms screamed overhead. Directorate Defense AI online. Emergency lockdown initiated. Lethal force authorized. We are out of time, Jax said. Core room is ahead. They reached a blast door so thick it could hold back a star. Echo pressed his hand to a biometric panel. The door recognized his DNA and opened. Inside was the heart of the Directorate. Storage vaults for classified files, memory cores, command matrices, and one enormous machine that pulsed like a black nerve. Project Echo Control Nexus, Echo said. The machine that controls every Echo subject in the galaxy. Command override through neural mesh. Jax stared in horror. You are telling me they can control you? Echo looked at him with quiet resignation. They already do. He stepped forward and placed a hand on the console. The machine awakened, lights snaking across its surface. A voice boomed through the room, mechanical, merciless. Neural link detected. Echo 7. Activation authorized. Awaiting deployment command. Echo's eyes unfocused. His body stiffened. His breath froze. Echo Jax grabbed him. Stay with me. Through clenched teeth, Echo whispered. Override. Must break link. Only one way. Jax followed his gaze. A power core at the base of the machine. The silence rifle would not just disable it. It would erase it. And maybe everything connected to it, including Echo 7. No, Jax said. There has to be another way. Echo shook, fighting the neural command. His voice broke. If you do not destroy it, they will use us. They will use me. Do it. Jax felt something tear inside him. Echo 7 was not just a clone now. He was a brother. A mirror. The proof that humanity could be broken but still choose to stand. And now he was asking Jax to erase him for the sake of freedom. Faint static crackled in Jax's ear. Ria's voice came over comms. Jax, we are live. We can broadcast in 2 minutes. But we need the files. Zila cut in. Defense grid is failing. If you are going to do something, do it fast. Mock screamed. They found us. I am hacking for my life over here. Jax looked at Echo. Echo looked back. Whatever happens, Echo said softly, thanks for finding me. Jax raised the quantum silence rifle. His hands did not shake. He fired. The core vanished. The machine screamed into nothing. Echo staggered, free for a heartbeat. He looked at Jax with a clarity that held no regret. Then his body flickered, like a candle in a dying wind, and he was gone. Jax fell to his knees. Ria's voice cut through. Jax, do you have the files? He rose without a word and grabbed the data core from the console. He ran. Upstairs, through fire, past falling debris. He moved on instinct, grief fueling him like a second heart. He reached the comm tower. Ria seized the core and plugged it into the broadcast channel. Mock stabilized the signal. Zila held the door against.